Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Podcast in the Park, the podcast for Deer Park Community City Schools. This is Director of Communications Jake Snyder here with you on Monday, October 2nd for Episode 2 of our new district-wide podcast. Joining me here, as always, is Deer Park Superintendent Phillips, along with our special guest this month, Director of Curriculum Dave Bergan. Glad to have you both here today. To get things started today, Mr. Phillips, I think the biggest topic during September has been discussions about the Ohio Department of Education's report cards, which were released late last month. Mr. Phillips, can you just tell us a little about the report card and what our results mean?
Yes, we've been anxiously anticipating this report card since last year. When we received the 2015-16 report card around the same time last year, as a district, we knew we had a lot of work to do. We weren't real excited about the results at the time. And our teachers have always worked very hard, but I think going into this past year, we had an idea of where we really needed to put our concerted efforts. And so all last year, we worked extremely hard on the areas of the report card where we were lacking in 15-16. And I think, when the community sees the report card, that they'll be very happy about the improvements that have been made. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Bergan, who's going to talk a little bit about the different components of the report card and some of the details around that report card. But like I said, overall, it was really good to see that the work that we put in last year paid dividends, and we're moving in the right direction. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks, Jay. As you referenced, the report card from the state is broken down into several components. And so when we look at our results from last year, obviously we want to do a little bit of comparison from the previous year, and we're always trying to grow and improve. When you look across all the areas, there was lots of areas for us to be proud of, and lots of areas where we showed a lot of growth. Now, when we look overall at our report card, we know that we're going to continue to grow and improve and use this data to better our instruction for our students. But here are just a couple highlights that we feel like are some areas for us to celebrate. K-3 literacy, which judges where students come in grades K through 3 and where we're able to move them. And so we're attempting to get our students from off track to on track. From 2 years ago, our report card in that area was an F. We were able to improve that all the way up to a B on our last report card. For progress, which measures the growth that each student has over the course of a school year. And I think it's really important when you look at the letter grades for progress for you to realize that a C represents a year's growth. And so for a lot of us, when we see a C in our report card, we have a lot of negative feelings about that. But in this area, a C actually means a year's growth. Unfortunately for us, 2 years ago, when you look at all of our students, our overall grade was an F. For this year, our overall student measure for progress was actually all the way up to an A. And for us, where our students come in and where we're able to move them in the course of a year is going to be a big focus for us. Performance index is just an overall snapshot, which gives you a point total. It has to do with where your students fall on the scale. We were able to move the needle on that one. We moved it from an 85 up to a 90. Also, when you look at percentage of students proficient, even though our overall measure here kind of remained as an F, which when you look across the state of Ohio, out of over 600 school districts, 500 of them were in that F range. Even though in that area you really didn't see a lot of growth with that letter grade, when you look at each individual test at each grade level, we were able to show a lot of growth. So there are 23 different areas that were assessed, and of those 23, we were able to show increases in 16 of them. 10 of those out of those 23, and 10 of them we increased by double digits. Some of the frustrations that we face with this measure and really showing our growth and where our students are. For example, for our third grade reading last year, we had roughly 50% of our students pass the third grade AIR test. This year, after having the same test a second year, we were able to move that all the way up to 78.8% of our students, which is close to a 30 percentage point increase in student passing that test. But the indicator on that was an 80%. So even though we know we moved the needle and we increased our student performance a lot, unfortunately that indicator would still show as a ding for us. So we know that obviously the report card isn't the end all be all of our instruction, but we do everything we can to use this information to better our instruction. The one other piece I want to just hit on, which I think is good news in the testing realm, is that this is the second year that we've had this test. So our teachers and our students aren't adjusting to a new test format, and they know kind of what the questions are looking like. So we're able to, it's not that we're teaching to the test, but we're just not surprised by the format, and we're not having to adjust to it. So we feel like it's a better measure of where our students are. The other piece that came out this year is that the state is actually giving us detailed item analysis. So rather than just saying a student passed or failed, we're able to see where our students performed on each individual indicator within an assessment. So if I'm a teacher and I'm looking to use these results to impact my daily instruction, I now have the tools and the data provided by the state to do that. We have our own internal measures that we're always using, but it's always nice to have an additional set of information. And unlike in years past, this year we're actually able to provide that to our staff to help us kind of continue to move that needle. So that's just a really quick overview of our results. You can spend hours digging into this data and figuring out what it all means. I would just encourage, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a call. I'd be happy to talk through any specific measure. Or talk any more about kind of how we're using this data to continue to move in the right direction. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Dave. And I'll add, as superintendent, I'm really proud of the progress that we made in just 1 year. Our staff and our principals worked really, really hard to move that needle. And we know that there's still a lot of work to be done, and we're going to continue to work as hard as we can to do the best things for our students and to move our students as much forward as we can every single year. So, Dave, thank you for your work, and thank you for that rundown of the report card.
Moving forward is a great transition, Mr. Phillips, kind of into our next topic. And, it's something we're probably going to talk about every single month when as we're moving forward here. Give us an update on the Amity Project. What's happening over there on Galbraith Road?
Sure. Most everyone that drives by there every day sees what's happening on the outside, and that's where a lot of the efforts over the last month have been, obviously now that the kids are back in session. We just finished pouring the slabs for the addition with the gymnasium and the classrooms. So that concrete was poured last week, and you'll really start to see the construction coming out of the ground. Things will start moving at a very rapid pace now that the foundation has been poured and those slabs have been poured. So that's where they're at right now. That's where most of the effort has been, getting that area ready for those slabs of concrete to be poured. And now that they have, you'll really start seeing that building come out of the ground.
And finally, to wrap things up today, Mr. Phillips, it's homecoming week over at the junior-senior high school. Tell us a little bit about what's going on this week.
Sure. Homecoming week is always a lot of fun for our staff and our students. This week they're going to be dressing up in theme outfits. We have Cartoon Day, Pajama Day, Scarlet and Gray Day. So it's always a lot of fun for our kids, and we always look forward to this week every year. We'll kick off homecoming week this Tuesday with boys soccer playing home against Indian Hill. And then Wednesday, it's senior night for our volleyball girls. They're playing Madeira at home. So then on Thursday, we have our homecoming parade, which is obviously a big deal for our community. Our students and staff, Board of Education, our band, our athletes that are all in the parade will start at St. John's, and we'll march down the road to the junior-senior high school. It's a great time for our community and the kids in our community to line the streets, and they get to see the floats that are in the parade, and they get to see, all the upperclassmen that are in the parade as well, and they always love having the candy thrown out to them, so that's always a lot of fun. Then after the parade, we have our Powder Puff football game, and then we finish the night on Thursday with a bonfire. Friday is the homecoming football game where we'll take on Finneytown, and at halftime we have the annual presentation of the homecoming court. So then the week wraps up with the homecoming dance that's going to be held in the gym on Saturday evening. So it's a great week. It's a lot of fun for our kids, for our staff as well, and for the families in our district.
Thanks, Mr. Phillips, and thanks everyone for listening to episode 2 of Podcast in the Park. We'll be back next month with 10 minutes or so from myself and Mr. Phillips and more special guests. From Jay Phillips, Dave Bergan, and myself, thanks for stopping by, and as always, go Wildcats.